All right. Hi, everybody. It is week 4, and we are going to walk through a couple of different things tonight to try to help us move from the outlines into the actual literature reviews. So this is the part of the project that we are focusing on this week. And if you remember in the last couple of weeks, if you use direct copy from your sources into your annotated bibliography and into your outline, that was totally fine. But in week 4, if you haven't done so yet, you definitely need to paraphrase. So week 4 is really the writing, and we're going to talk about what that looks like, but your words, their thoughts. So let's walk through here on the PowerPoint and hopefully clarify some of this. And for anybody that's on tonight, feel free to just come off your mic if you have a question, because I can't always see the chat when I'm going through the PowerPoint. So if you have a question, just go ahead and chime in. All right. So this is the process that we've been following. And I've mentioned a few times, and I pulled this course apart last year and I put it back together slowly in different components, and I've retweaked different areas. But this is the process that kind of the logo that I came up with, if you will, for my class, not really a logo, but in terms of what we're doing. So this outer circle here is, the steps that we're going through and kind of what it's accomplishing in here. So identify a problem or question. This was given to you in week 2, where you chose which option for the research questions you were going to follow, and then you could tweak them and kind of align them better with your preferred direction. And then searching the literature, which is what we walked through with Lisa Spicola, and then you did that in week 2 to prepare your annotated bibliography, which is here. And you can see identifying the problems, searching the literature, going to the annotated bibliography. And now, well, not now, but last week for week 3, you developed a literature review outline. Critically analyze and evaluate the literature. So you looked at the literature, and this was kind of between the annotated bibliography and the outline, because you had to look at it and analyze it a little bit to actually figure out which points were relevant for you to put into the annotation. And then last week, really trying to figure out sections by topic and where you had themes that went together from your different articles, and how you could start to pull this to get together in a cohesive manner. So now we are moving to the green circle, write a literature draft. This black circle here is really important. Synthesize the information, and we're going to talk about what that means, because this is probably one of the most important skills you will learn and hone and need for your dissertation. So this is where we are right now. And then next week, you'll use the feedback that I give you on the week 4 assignment to make some adjustments and finalize your week 5 review. All right. One of the technical components of all of this, obviously, would be the section headings, right? So if you were used to a previous edition of APA, pretty much the only font option used to be Times New Roman size 12. In the 7th edition, they have nicely offered us some different options. You have some flexibility with your font. You can still use the old standby Times New Roman size 12. Or you can use Calibri, Arial, Georgia. Those would all be size 11 because of the difference in the font. Or you can use Lucida Sans Unicode, and this would be size 10. So you don't have a ton of options, but you have some options here. Just make sure you're following the size with whichever font you choose. Moving into the headings, this is in the dissertation handbook. If you happen to look at that yet, you don't need to, but always good to kind of become familiar with that over time. And then this is also, there's an example in the APA manual. So I created this for our handbook, and I just find that it's, you know, easy to see when it's all in one place like this. So you have your research question or your title of the work, and then your first heading. So your level 1 headings are centered, bold, and title case. So basically sentence, no, I'm sorry, not sentence case, title case, where the first letter of each word is capitalized and just goes just like this, right in the middle and bold. And then your text, your content begins in an indented paragraph, just like normal. If you have subsections within this main section, you're going to use level 2 headings, and those are left justified, bold, and title case as well. And then the paragraph begins in the same place. Well, let's say you have your main heading, and then immediately you're going to a subheading. So let's just call our main heading Colors in Nature. And the first color you want to talk about is the blues that are in nature. Okay, so now this level heading is the blues in nature. Does anybody, based on any feedback that you might have received from me or knowledge of APA, does anybody see any issue if we were to go right from the level 1 heading, skip this paragraph here, but and immediately put a level 2? Does anybody see any issues with that? Dina, you're the only one I can see at the moment, but I saw you shake your head. So why might that cause an issue?
Because you haven't really figured out what you're going to start talking about yet. You haven't introduced, you know, the point of all of those subheadings. So
perfect. So this oval over here avoids stacked headings. A stacked heading means you have one heading with no content, and then immediately you have another heading right under it. So if you want to say the colors in nature, then give us a little blurb. It, you know, 3 sentences, 4 sentences, that's fine. It doesn't have to be extensive. Give us a little intro to the colors of nature. Then you can go with the blue colors in nature as your first subheading. Then this paragraph here would talk about all the blues in nature. And then you would have another second level heading, and that one might be the greens in nature, and then a paragraph to talk about that, etc. So definitely for this assignment, I would say you're probably only going to have level 1s and level 2s. If you only have level 1s, that's okay, as long as you have enough of them to separate your content, but level 1s and 2s. For this assignment, you probably are not getting to level 3s, and in your dissertation, you're mostly going to have level 1 and 2. You will have some 3s. 4s and 5s are rare. You might have them, but they're not as common. This does not mean that the first heading is level 1, then level 2, then level 3, then level 4. It's the type of heading depending on the type of section. So like I mentioned, colors in nature, level 1, give an intro to colors in nature. Then your next heading would be level 2 because it's a subcategory of colors in nature. It's the blues in nature. We talk about the blues. Then another level 2 heading, the greens in nature, etc. So that's probably what your work will look like for this assignment. Again, unless you have just level 1s, that's okay as long as there's enough to separate. Any questions before I move on? All right, and we can always come back to questions too at the end. All right, so synthesize your points. I mentioned on the first slide that this is probably the most important skill in the literature review process. So what does it mean to synthesize? Well, the outline is the first step to help you with that. Remember, when you prepared your outlines, I told you, you don't want to outline by article, you want to outline by topic. So again, the colors in nature, all the articles that fit under the blues go there, all the ones that fit under the greens go there. So your outline and eventually your review becomes thematic as opposed to chronological or article driven. These two sources here provide excellent, I'm going to pull them up for you. They provide excellent resources to really walk you through the synthesis process or synthesizing process. And you can see, you know, what it is and what it is not. One of these sources, it's this one. They give you an excellent, and I know it's probably hard to see on my video in Zoom, but these links will be in the PowerPoint that's included in the block this week. But these examples are excellent. It walks you through what a typical literature review might look like, but only one of these is an actual appropriate format. So you can see how the other ones are separated, maybe not right here, you can't, but this one basically has all the same source. All this blue is cited under or supported by Dickey. Well, that's great, but you need more than one source for an entire section. Even if this wasn't a full review, if it's just one section, you can't have a full section supported by just one source. Now, some of you did contact me about a subsection being supported by one source, and for this assignment, that's fine. In a larger work or for your dissertation, that would not work, but for sake of time here, if it's a subsection and it's part of a larger section and that just has one source for the sub, it's okay. All right, in this example, you can see here, it's done a little bit differently, but this time it's done by article. So we have this article says this article says this one, and then this one. Well, that would be arranging your content by article, not by theme. This is basically just saying this article said, that the next one said, the next one said. It becomes basically a series of article reviews. This is a very common direction for students to go in. You want to stay away from this direction because this is not a true literature review. This is just a series of article reviews kind of listed out for a reader. In C, this one has some direct quotes, and these may even be direct quotes too that they're putting in here, which is another point I've mentioned in this course. You want to keep direct quotes definitely to a minimum. In this assignment for something this long, I mean, if you had 1 to 2 short quotes, okay. But when you write your dissertation, your chapter 2 is going to be 35 to 75 pages. I would say at max, you would have 5 direct quotes, if that. So that's the kind of minimalistic approach we want to take to direct quotes. We really want to try to keep them out as much as possible, paraphrasing, only using direct quotes when the information wouldn't be relayed in a manner that would give it the same meaning. All right, so in this one, this does have direct quotes. Again, this is sectioned off by the different sources. And again, I know you can't read all of this, but visually, these examples are done. Each source is in a different color, so you can kind of follow the coloring. And then you come to student D, and you can see that the colors are all intertwined. There's blue, green, purple, pink, blue, yellow, pink. We're kind of going back and forth, bringing this article back in. And whether this is one full section or, you know, whatever, you can see in just the amount of content that we see how they go back and forth. There's very little direct quote in here. It's mostly paraphrased content, and they intertwine the sources. This here site is also a very good resource, and they go through some great examples as well. I won't walk through this one as completely as the other, but these will be available for you. Okay, so the goal here is to synthesize your content from all your articles into one cohesive package. And that's by section, subsection, and then whole review. Everything should be cohesive. If you remember, I think it's in the directions for the week 3 outline where I said, you know, in the annotated bibliography assignment, you were looking at each article separately. And in week 3, when you brought them together to outline, you were looking at them holistically. Now your 6 or however many articles you have are a package. And that package is going to help you create your cohesive review. All right. Here we go. So synthesize your section points. And on one of the sources we just looked at, they kind of have a do's and don'ts. But I've put these here for you. You're going to combine the points from your annotations into cohesive paragraphs. So I have some reminders, the last few slides of things we talked about last week, using that connective language, using that transitional language to help that cohesion and bring it all into one, you know, one product. That's where I'm looking for. So you're going to use that connective language. Remember, connective language is used when you are trying to put multiple points from the same source into one area, instead of having the same source in a parenthetical citation, one after the other, 3 sentences in a row. You can vary narrative, parenthetical citations, and connective language. And then transitional language, which is what you'll probably be using a lot in this assignment, where you're moving from one source to the other and back to this one and over to this source. So using that transitional language is going to be key to help those points connect more smoothly. And then do not produce a series of article reviews, list one point after another in sentence form. So almost like, you know, point A, point B, point C, that's kind of just a listing of points. And then not to use direct quotes overly. Okay, so paraphrase, paraphrase, paraphrase. This is something that we've been talking about since orientation, but I wanted to just emphasize this because this is the week where paraphrasing becomes really important for those who haven't done it yet, especially for the work in this course, where you're moving from that annotation that may have been direct copy, which was fine, into now the writing of the sections. So your words, their thoughts. Remember, the point of the literature reviews for this course, this program, are for you to tell us, or the reader, what everybody else has said. This can be a little bit difficult sometimes because you guys are experts in your field. You know what you're talking about. You live a lot of this stuff daily. That's why you're interested in it and want to write about it. But when you are writing academically and giving a literature review, we are not looking for your thoughts. This is not the place to tell us what you think about this. Until you are published and can be part of that literature, this is not the place to provide your thoughts on the topic. This is a place for you to tell us what has already been published about the topic. We do this for 2 reasons typically. One, sometimes we just need to go and collect the literature to find out what's out there. We're working on a project and, you know, at work, and we want to know what's been put out there already on this topic. So you might just be conducting a literature review for a baseline of information. Another reason, which is what you'll be doing for your dissertation, why you would conduct a literature review, is to help you do a few things. Number one, figure out, are there any gaps? Where are the gaps? What are the gaps? What has already been said? And is there a place for me to insert my idea for my research? So we've talked before about direct and indirect literature. If you are maybe pursuing a research direction of performance, let's see, performance variations among zookeepers when annual reviews are recorded. Okay, well, that's pretty specific. So will we be able to find literature on annual reviews? Absolutely. will we be able to find literature on performance of zookeepers? Maybe. There's probably some, not a ton, there's probably some. Will we be able to find research on recorded annual reviews? Maybe. Will we be able to find literature on performance variations of zookeepers when their annual reviews are recorded? Probably not. I'm guessing maybe no. So we would use that indirect literature about the three main topics and pull those together and make a space for our research on this very specific niche. So conducting the literature review helps us really figure out where to go with our topic. And that is, and sometimes, you know, it's the chicken or the egg. Sometimes you have the topic idea, then you're looking at the literature. Sometimes your idea evolves from the literature. And that is part of our hope for you, that you may have an idea right now. And as you go through your coursework in the next year and a half, that you continue to collect literature, review it, look at it, and figure out really the best direction for you with whatever you're interested in and where it might fit. So again, the point of this here in the literature review is to tell us what has already been published on the topic. All right, these are just some reminders that we went over last week, you know, just making sure that your in-text citations are properly formatted. You know, remember that narratives look like this, parenthetical look like this. At all, the all has a period and then a comma after it, and then the year. If you have a direct quote, you know how to handle that. If it's 40 or more words, you have to do a block quote. Again, in a 6-page assignment, I'm gonna hope you probably don't have a 40+ word quote, but you know, if you need to, here's how to format it. It can look that up. Your connected language, I'm not going to review this slide in full, but this is just a reminder here again this week. And we've already talked about this. This is connecting points from the same source. You may use this a little bit in this assignment, but more so you'll probably be using transitional expressions. Okay, so that is it for the content for this week. Before I stop the recording, does anybody have any questions that might benefit anyone else who might watch this? Okay, I will stop the recording. This will be posted.